The Voice is certainly back on the agenda today. The Prime Minister says we will be going to a referendum within the next 6 months. UnionsWA, they're throwing their support behind the Yes campaign in the Voice referendum. And joining me now is Lisa Judge. She is the Assistant Secretary at UnionsWA. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Ollie. Thanks for having me on. This is such an important issue. Great to see you putting it on the agenda.
Well, it's interesting, Lisa, because it is on the agenda. It's going to be part of the conversation, I'm sure, about that over the next 6 months in particular. And why have UnionsWA come out today to throw its support behind the Yes campaign?
Well, we're supporting the Yes campaign because it's almost in our DNA. Unions stand up for fairness, and we've got a proud history of trying to do that for all people, and that includes Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I know it can be a really difficult thing to face, but our history hasn't been fair to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and we don't think we can unpick that legacy without giving those people a real voice in how we go forward.
A lot of questions being asked by a lot of our listeners today, Lisa, and even in the interview the Prime Minister conducted earlier today on our sister station 2GB about a lack of detail still being provided to the Australian people. That obviously hasn't been a worry or a concern for UnionsWA.
We're just at the beginning of what we know is going to be a really long conversation. And for me personally, I know 51% of other Western Australians polled in the West earlier this month know, out of all of the conversation that's already happening, that we support establishing a voice. So for us, the first step is having that conversation with the whole community and across the whole country and figuring out whether the voice is the right way for us to go forward. And once we've done that, then the parliamentary drafters and the constitutional lawyers and the Aboriginal leaders who've been working on this for decades, they can figure out the right words for how we put that in action.
Do you believe that your membership was keen for UnionsWA to get on the front foot with this?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think other unions will follow in the state?
Yeah, I think you'll see unions across the country supporting a voice. We've got a really proud history of standing with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And what's really clear is when Aboriginal leaders wrote the Uluru Statement, they were reaching out a hand saying, let's move forward together, and we're going to reach back.
What do you think it will do if there is a yes vote to this? What will change as a result of a voice, do you believe, Lisa, being introduced into the Constitution?
I think that's such a really good question, and I think it's important to understand what we're actually really talking about when we talk about the voice. And what we're talking about is a representative body for First Nations people that's going to provide a permanent way of them advising Parliament and government. And I think we've heard a bit of confusion that it's going to be like the old ATSIC or that it'll have a veto power. But what we're talking about is an advisory function that can really dig into the complexity of some of the issues that are caused by our history so that we can move forward and get some solutions.
People will say we have a parliament there to deal with these sorts of things already.
It's an interesting point, but I think because of our history, the issues that impact First Nations people are so much more complex and disproportionate to the voice they have in the parliament that this is a way of lifting up their voice and making sure we address the issues. When I was a trainee teacher, I went out to the NT, to a remote community, took my books in my backpack, and I thought that I had a lot of answers, and what I came back with were a lot of questions. And what I do know is that we're not going to figure out a way forward to solving some of the complexity I saw in education and housing and healthcare without Aboriginal people actually having a voice and a seat at the table.
Lisa, I appreciate your time. She's the Assistant Secretary at UnionsWA, Lisa Judge.